Yeah, Armando, good morning from me. Good evening to you too.
Hello, good morning. Good morning from me too. I'm here in California, so it is 9:30.
Oh, nice. Okay, then morning as well. I'm so used to European presenters. Yeah, great to chat with you, and I appreciate you coming on. Yeah, I'm gonna get a chance to hang out with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invitation. I have followed some of your guests here, and you guys have a great lineup. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been between this and the other company 6 years now that I've been doing this pretty regularly. I thought years ago I would run out of people at some point, but I've continued to just find and meet more amazing individuals, knowledgeable people in the community. So it's honestly, if nothing else, outside of you being able to share content with the community space, it's nice just to get to know people. I think as a proxy through this stuff.
Yeah, we have bumped into each other. So many SQL Saturdays out there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then it sounds like from the conversation earlier, the three of us will all be at FabCon.
Can't wait for it. Fabcom
Yeah.
is always super exciting. Can't wait for it. The past 2 years here in the US, it has been held in Vegas, which is kind of a
Yeah.
fun city. A lot of things to do around. This year is going to be in Atlanta, so it's going to be different, new venue. And I'm looking forward to it.
Just speaking of that, for a small maybe plug from yourself, what is the session that you'll be presenting there?
Oh, I'll be talking to data engineers that work on SQL Server. So, professionals that are working on SSIS, and they do their ETL, their data transformations there. And now we got Fabric. So how do you bridge your knowledge and your skills from SSIS into Fabric? What goes through, what's different, what should be looking for, the pitfalls. So my session is about bridging your SSIS skills to Fabric.
Nice.
It'll be
Okay.
very useful, I think, because I've seen a lot of organizations who have been on SSS now pushing to Fabric. So I think there's a lot of comparable, but a lot of different. So I think that's going to be a really interesting session.
Yeah, exactly, Steve. Conceptually, they're very much, similar. They're very much similar. In terms of implementation and options around, a lot of differences.
Definitely.
Now, what we like to do a little bit when we have the guests on a new channel is to give them a chance to give a little not elevator pitch, but introduction about themselves, kind of anything interesting about what you do, what you like to do in your life, or just a bit of an introduction to the channel before we kind of segue into having some fun tech talks.
Sure. Yeah. Again, for those who don't know me, my name is right here, Armando Lacerda, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. So one of the things I love to do is to deliver classes and workshops. I've been teaching Microsoft's official curriculum for almost 30 years. Actually, this year is my 30th anniversary. So I've been doing that all over the globe. I'm originally from Brazil, but now I live here in California. I've been living here for the past 10 years. I'm also an independent consultant, so I work with partnership with other consulting companies. Currently, I'm working with Zebia International. Zebia is we are based in the Netherlands, but I work with the U.S. office, which is headquartered in Atlanta. So we work with a lot of big customers, very large companies, Inc. 500. And with Zebia, I've been doing a lot of Fabric there. I've been doing a lot of some of my current assignment is Fabric around security. So Purview is also included in there, which is awesome. And if you're not dealing with Copilot or Foundry AI at some level, you are not in 2026, right? So I've been helping customers to integrate their data and make their data available with security through Purview and other tools in Fabric for both regular AI and generative AI, either through Microsoft AI Foundry or Copilot. And on my personal life, what I live here in Northern California, so full of mountains around. Just a couple of weeks back, I was doing snowboarding, and I love snowboarding. When I'm down to San Diego, I'm doing surfing there. If weather permits, I jump in my motorcycle, go around the mountains here. I live near Lake Berryessa, so a lot of country roads in the back end there. Super cool. And yeah, that's me.
Nice.
And
I
when
think
it is
that,
time,
oh,
I
go ahead.
meet you on SQL Saturdays, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, and I was just gonna say is like the nice thing about being anywhere on the West Coast or the Northwest is you have a lot of opportunities for just outdoor activities, whether or not
Yeah.
it is ocean or mountain. So it's pretty nice over here.
Yeah, I'm a scuba dive certified by Patty. So any chance I have, I go down to Monterey and have fun with the sea lions at the Kelps Cathedral. It's super fun there.
And segueing a little bit too into kind of the discussion around Fabric and the topic of the day today, what will we be getting our hands into for the discussion and demos?
So I put this session together because when we are in data analytics, you need to. We always talk about the medallion approach, right? People, if you're in AI, you may not be much into the medallion because you want to create your data frame, and your data frame may be not tabular, maybe multi-vector kind of a frame. But if you're into BI, you more likely you're doing your medallion approach and work with the data there. But the thing is, in order to implement the medallion approach, the data needs to get in, needs to be ingested. And SQL Server 2025 brought a lot of innovations and two particular features that help a lot, especially if you are on premise. If you're in the cloud, things have been from the Microsoft side, the connections in there, they have been fixed or implemented for a while. But for on-premise, it has always been a challenge. Usually people resort to CDC. But now we have other options, and we're going to talk about these options today.
Excellent. Well, if you're ready, we can go ahead and flip over to your screen and get started. Also, I like is that a Spider-Man? Yeah, Spider-Man cup. Yeah, very cool.
California, universal right there.
True. That's fair. All right, here we go. Flipping over.
I just noticed that I'm having some glare on my camera. Let me just fix this glare here. Super
No worries.
When I put the mug close to the camera, I noticed the glare. So let me get this better.
Oh, there you go.
Let's see. No glare. There we go. All right. Let's close this. And let's get the mouse over here. I do have a clicker here somewhere. Here's my clicker. Okay. So let's talk about this, right? Data sync. The idea of data sync here is I have my data. Well, let's start. Let's go back 2 steps and remind ourselves that transactional and analytical, they usually don't mingle together, right? Microsoft has been trying to get those two together in SQL Server for as long as SQL Server is around, especially after SQL Server 7 and SQL Server 2000. And inside SQL Server, you have technology for both. But if you enable both at the same server, the same compute, usually you have contention, right? They're always fighting each other for either memory or CPU or both, right? Besides the storage. So the normal implementation of things is to have 2 compute pieces, right? One to support transactions and the other one to support analytical. And if you're on premise, you've been doing that since forever, right? You have probably two VMs or 2 SQL servers in different hardware deployments. and you have your analytical going in one place and have your applications running transactions in the other place. You know, DAGs have been used for that in SQL Server. Before DAGs, we had database mirroring, right? Not mirroring, replication, database replication. So long ago, you know, sometimes the terminology escapes me. But database replication and all of those things. Now that we are in the cloud and we have even better services than just SQL Server, the regular SQL Server engine that we run on our VMs, and SQL Server analysis service, which was designed specific for, you know, a more robust analytical process that what is offered by the transactional engine. Now that we're in the cloud, we have that need to copy data over from transaction to analytical, you know, even more you know, urgent. And I'm putting the outline here in my head. So just jump straight into what we want to talk today to save time, you know, for the sake of time. The point here is, how do I get my data that is on-premise and I want to do my analytical on-premise? But now I'm convinced that on-premise is not the right place to do this analytical anymore, because even Power BI to run on-premises, you know, that Power BI server that's still offered is still there. Is not the real Power BI that we see in the cloud with all the features we can have. I want to use the right platform, which is Fabric. So how do I get my data from on-premise, from Fabric, right? From Fabric on-premise to SQL Server, I mean, to Fabric, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. How do I get my data that's in SQL Server on-premise to Fabric? Focus, Armando, to Fabric. Just a reminder for the ones that are following us around here, this problem in the cloud is being fully solved for a very long time, right? I mean, long time in compute nowadays, like if it's solved for a year, it's a very long time. But if your SQL Server is in the cloud, if it's running in the platform as a service, you can use this feature in SQL, in Azure SQL database called mirroring. So Fabric implements this native replication from supported sources, Azure SQL Database, Cosmos DB, Azure databases for Postgres, for MySQL. So there are some native supports in the cloud to get the data being copied over and be kept in sync, you know, close to real time in Fabric. So that is that. That is not the topic of the day. When it comes to on-premise, we have always resorted to CDC, right? We have been doing change data capture since SQL Server, you know, 2008, I think. We have been doing this change data capture to collect, you know, to capture in SQL Server all the changes and then get the data from that, you know, transcript of what has been changed somewhere else. The thing is, the control and the storage of that change is in SQL. So that is heavy, it's very taxi on the SQL Server side, because you do have extra processing and storage for the data that has been changed, right? So it creates some bottleneck there. Finally, Microsoft came with a very good solution for us. It's where we're going to jump in SQL Server 2025 to implement this data sync. Right. So the idea here is, if you know, our friends who are following us here on YouTube and your other channels, if there is an opportunity to upgrade to SQL Server 2005, and you have this scenario where you need to get data out of SQL for analytical, especially in the cloud, especially in Fabric, we got two options here that we want to demo for you today. Clear? Everybody okay? Cool. I think they can ask questions, right? As we just a reminder to the people following along, they know you, they know your channel, so they know they can ask questions, right?
Yep.
Cool. All right, moving on. If the mouse helps. All right. There we go. Now he goes. So that's me. I already introduced myself. Here we go. Here we are. So from ground to cloud, right? This just a couple slides here for us to understand how this thing works and what are the elements that are required in order to have this working. So yeah, that's my laser point. It works. Hey, everything works now. Great. The idea is Microsoft SQL can be found in many places, right? So this is just a reminder that where you can find SQL Server. And what we are, and so you can find SQL Server Engine on Windows, on Linux, on, not this one here. What is it? Here in Azure, over here, inside Fabric. You know, if you have it inside Fabric, it's even better. The data is already there. You don't have to migrate much. It's pretty much there. But the point in here is this guy here, right? This platform. So for us, for the people following us here now, we start with some specifics. We are talking about SQL Server 2005 on Windows, right? What we are, when you go to the documentation, they're going to tell you there. What we are seeing here now doesn't work on the Linux platform or in a container, right? It works on Windows Server, only Windows Server. And some prerequisites for this works only on the Windows Server desktop experience. You cannot work on the minimalistic one, right? So this is the one we're talking about, running on-premise. And by the way, let me emphasize it here. Let me get close to the camera. On-premise, only on-premise. Armando, what about if I do SQL Server 2025 on a VM in Azure? It doesn't work. It's not supported. Documentation says it's not supported. So you can even try to push it to work. You make that to work, but if it fails, not supported. Sorry.
Okay.
Right? Okay. All right. So so that's that, and some other tools around there. I stole this slide deck here from Microsoft, where they had us in a tour last year, evangelizing SQL Server 2025. So we're going to focus on our specific features in here. So that's why it's so nice, so beautiful. My slides, they are not that well designed. Yeah, so here we are. We got SQL Server in the cloud down here. And the goal is to land the data in one lake. We need to get the data in here. So SQL Server 2025, as mentioned before, can be found outside Fabric in multiple options in the cloud, inside Fabric as well. This SQL database in here. A side note here for the folks following along, this is the SQL Server icon. We're familiar with this one here. And this is not the SQL Server icon. So what's up? This is supposed to be SQL. It's supposed to be, isn't it supposed to be the same icon? And I like to joke about this because we evolved from, as human beings, as a species, we evolved from drawing on cave walls to hieroglyphs and pyramids to paper written language. Now we are going back into hieroglyphs. It's important to understand these icons and these meanings, right? When we see, especially when you look into documentation architecture. So the point in here is in Fabric, there are more databases than just SQL. And this is the icon in Fabric for any built-in database engine consuming Fabric capacity, right? It's not running outside Fabric like those would be, but consuming Fabric capacity. Right now there we see SQL and Cosmos DB. And I think there are more coming. All right, moving on. And here's the thing. In order to make this data flowing from on-premise to the cloud, we need to keep this path, this channel secure. So we are getting close to the implementation here when we look into this and say, okay, I'm transferring data from some server, some data center somewhere into the cloud. How am I going to make this connection secure? And that is a requirement, not just for our scenario where we have SQL Server on-premise trying to talk to Fabric in the cloud, but there are many other scenarios when we look into hybrid cloud implementation. When talking about the cloud, we think about the cloud, we think about the clouds over there in the sky. And when we talk about data centers, we think about something on the ground, right, from ground to cloud. So when I bring the cloud to the ground, how do you name it?
What's your naming? I mean, do you subscribe to a particular book or methodology for those naming conventions, or?
I think we ran out of technical terms, and we are stealing technical terms from other industries like pipelines, plumbing, like we are stealing from other industries. We call it, officially, formally, we call it a hybrid cloud. I like to call it a mist, or
I do like Mist. Mist is good.
Yeah, right. The cloud is over there. If you change temperature and pressure, the cloud comes down to the ground, and it can become a mist. It can become, yeah. So you got my idea. What we're doing here is a hybrid cloud. Is bringing the cloud control to my data center. So my data center, what we need in order to have SQL Server talking, SQL Server 2025 talking to Fabric in the cloud, it's a way to manage the compute resources where SQL Server is installed in a secure way. And SQL Server 2025 brings that even in a better way. There was already some integration in SQL Server 2022 when it came out. But with 2025, it's even more integrated. You're going to see that as we move along, and I'm going to show you how to get that. In SQL Server 2022, we already had this. Like, this is the, again, hieroglyphs, right? This is the icon for Enter ID. So if I have an account in the cloud in Enter ID from SQL Server 2022, I could come in and authenticate with that account in my on-premise SQL. So that was SQL Server 2022. In order for us to do what we need to do, which get our data from here and push it to Fabric that's in the side, this resource needs to authenticate to the cloud. So I need to get a service account from the cloud, from Enter ID, associated to my SQL Server, and therefore to the VM where SQL Server is running. And that came with SQL Server 2025. With SQL Server 2025. A keyword for our friends that are following along that are not that familiar with Enter ID and the elements in there, a keyword to keep in mind is this one here, manage identity. So identity is an account. It's my account. In my account in Azure is my user identity, is my user account. Tenant administrators, they can go in and create accounts themselves for services. But when they do this, it's a better way than assign a user account, because user account, they have passwords and they have to rotate and all of that. So when you create service accounts, you create a particular account for a particular application. This case could be SQL, right? But the problem is I'm creating that account. I have a password for that account or a certificate for that account. So the account is in a lower level, it's still kind of a vulnerable, because someone has a secret to that account, either a certificate or plain text secret, whatever it is. The managed identity is what we want to have every time it's possible to have it, every time it is supported, because the managed identity is an identity created under request, right? In Entra, by Entra, and nobody knows the password, the authentication elements for that account besides Azure, besides the tenant, besides Entra. So nobody can impersonate that account. So for those who are following along, this guarantees that this communication from on-premise to the cloud, the authentication and the data transmission that goes in there, is highly, highly secure.
That's good.
Cool. Isn't it?
Well, just as a quick mention on this, I do feel like we're in a day and age where it's very easy to lean on products that might not be the best platforms to be sharing information that you don't realize is in there. I think it's easier than ever to accidentally give away API keys secrets and a bunch of other stuff without realizing it. So it's I think it's something to pay more attention to than we ever have, just given how much we use cloud-based services.
100%, I agree. And I love that Microsoft decided in SQL Server 2025 not to give that option. You have to do this, right? You have to use the managed identity, which guarantees security. And in order for this to work, of course, we need infrastructure. We need Azure. Our servers are already deployed in our data centers, network connectivity, and all of that. But, and here's where the mist comes in place. We need also to have this particular service in Azure enabled and set up for our on-premise VMs. It's called the Azure Arc. So hybrid network, how do I do hybrid network in Azure? I put in place Azure Arc. So Azure Arc is the service to implement hybrid cloud or the Mist. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. So there we go. Right. We got this. We need to get this guy here in place. So let me show you how we do that. Let me switch to my VM here. This is Fabric. We're going to be there in a second. This is a VM. You don't see the name here. I don't think it's not showing there anywhere. But I just created this VM like 40 minutes before our session here, and the name of the VM is Trash Me Later, so I know I can throw it away. So don't mind the naming there. And the point here is this VM is brand new. I just finished installed the operating system, Windows 2005. And over here, it tells me right away, right after installing, and if you don't disable this, it's going to show you every time you boot the server and you connect to it. Like, hey, would you like to connect this virtual machine to Azure Arc? But
okay.
notice that it's doing this one here because it's offering you a different type of management. It's not emphasizing, the security that goes around this, and that's a prerequisite to other services. Like, if you're deploying a SQL Server managed instance on premise, you can do that. That is supported, but you have to have Arc in place. I found it funny because they show it as a management option, which is just a portion of it, right? It's actually the free portion of it, right? To see that going. And installing it's kind of a simple, you go into, there are tutorials there from Microsoft documentation, but if you go here, I already have a machine where this is already installed, so I'm just gonna go over here. So, for the benefit of the people who don't know this yet, who haven't seen this yet. So I was looking into the server to see if all the prerequisites are there. It's downloading some elements in there that are missing. It's taking a little while. And I'm gonna, grant that virtual machine that is running on a laptop that is 5 years old. So it's kind of slow there. But when it's downloading these things here, and after this, I would be installing SQL Server on this virtual machine. When it's downloading these things in here, one of the things that is downloading is the module that will support SQL Server. Meaning, when I connect this virtual machine to Azure, I will have a single single control pane, right? One pane of glass to control my VMs in the cloud. They're already there. And this one, I will be able, like, if I need to restart SQL Server, I don't have to remote remote desktop to this machine or do some sort of a remote PowerShell from my internal network. I would be able to go to Azure and from the Azure portal or the Azure Cloud Shell and restart the service from the cloud that's running on my data center, right? If I need. So that's why it kind of had this flavor of management, because it will show up over there. Let's just see here if it doesn't pick up speed, I will switch to the other one that's already installed. Going once. Any questions from our friends following along?
Nothing at the moment.
Nothing at the moment. All right, you see? So, okay, you are in. Prerequisites are installed. So which Azure cloud are you using? Yeah, I'm using the regular one. I'm not government and I'm not in China. So that's my one. Let's sign into Azure.
You always got to do the dance for the demo gods.
Yeah, I think I have to sacrifice my dog. No, don't. No jokes with God, with the dog. Nobody likes this. The jokes with God. All right. It seems, for whatever reason, that the demo gods are not that happy with me today because it should be popping up a login screen here for me. All right, I'm gonna move ahead. I don't want to waste time on this. Let's do one last try. Get go, and I cannot. Dang, is my mouse in the right place? Yeah. Okay, I'll leave it there. I'll come back to this virtual machine later. Perhaps it picks up. I mean, the laptop is old, but it's not that old. The other virtual machine is not that slow. Let's go to the other one. So this is the other one where I already have those steps completed, and this virtual machine is already connected to Azure. So let's check that out. Let's minimize this. This is something I'm going to be talking a few. These are files that I have downloaded. And let's get here to terminal. So here, if I do host name here, I see this is the virtual machine where, yeah, that's right. This is the virtual machine that that's running SQL Server. Yeah, I'm still thinking the other one, if I could speed it up somehow. So this is the virtual machine running SQL Server that I have already connected to Arc. So if I go here to the browser and switch, actually, let me do it from here. Let's be faster from here. Portal.azure.com. I created this tenant just for demos and sessions like this, so my customer stuff doesn't pop up. Yeah, so let's go here to the resource group and take a look at Fabric demos. And in here, you will find a lot of resources, and one of them will be that virtual machine I just showed you, right? Let me zoom in here a little bit. No, it doesn't. Even zoom in is not working. Go figure. Anyways, so where is it? Here, the virtual machine, right? This is my virtual machine. And like I said, if I come in here to the virtual machine, I can manage it from here. See, it's a virtual machine and it's an Arc. And I can, I can come here and do whatever I want to do with this virtual machine from a management perspective, right? And check out what's going on there. Management, license. You know what's interesting? Just because I pointed in the licensing here, both SQL and this virtual machine, if I want to, I can ask Microsoft to charge me like they were in the cloud. So like pay as you go. I don't have to buy a SQL license with the amount of cores that I have. I set up, if I get Arc working, get SQL Server shows up in here, I can ask Microsoft to charge me by the utilization of my SQL on-premise, which means if I stop SQL, I'm not being charged. Cool, right?
Less money is always better.
Saving money is always good.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is the one for the server, right, for the virtual machine. And one important thing here for the folks following along is that manage identity, it's valid for the server. It's not linked just to the SQL Server service. It's for the entire server. So anything running on this virtual machine, if it goes to the cloud and tries to connect to storage accounts, if the right APIs are called, it will use the managed identity of the server. So at the same time that the connection to the cloud is super secured by the managed identity, whoever is managing this virtual machine here must be very careful not to allow any bad app, right, bad actor into this virtual machine, because we'll be using the managed identity of the virtual machine. So careful about that. All right, moving on. What else? Check. Hold on, one more thing in here. Back to the resource groups, Fabric demo, and what is it? This is the virtual machine. This is SQL Server. There you go. So you see, I get the virtual machine over here, and down here I have the SQL Server installation and the management ability, tools and abilities, the elements I have to get that SQL Server working and patched, and every policy I want to do straight from here, right? In terms of securities and settings. Like I said, you don't. It's not 100% everything that I would have in Management Studio, but for the most part, I have a lot of options for management here. So that's why it shows up as a management option in the virtual machine when you go there. Okay, moving on. I found it funny. People are really quiet. Usually people come with a lot of questions on this and that. What about that? What about this scenario here with this account and so on? So
we had another, we had another four to five people just join right now. So for anybody new tuning in, because sometimes people come in later or watch later, feel free to drop questions into the chat, or as always later on with the recording, if you put anything into the comments, either Steve, myself, or Armando will come back and answer those questions as well.
Yeah, this is the trainer side of me. I'm a trainer, and trainers, while developers are fed by pizza, they want to have pizza. Trainers want to have questions. If I'm talking, nobody's talking.
Oh, I agree.
To me, I'm like, I'm starving.
I've actually done this a couple times, just as a just to give you some conversation. There's been a few times where I presented to a really big room, and I do know that there are some countries that I think culturally just don't talk as much to you as others. They're quieter. I can't remember if it was Germany or it was somewhere over in Europe, but I quite literally sat down, we're gonna have a bit of awkward silence, but so far it's been like 30 minutes and there's like 200 of you, not a single question. I'm gonna sit and wait. I'm gonna sip my coffee. I want to get at least one question, and it felt probably like minutes. I think it was maybe like 30 seconds, but I sat in silence for a little bit, and eventually somebody raised their hand, like, all right, good, because I want a question. Thank you. But I made the room wait for somebody to finally build up the courage to say something, because I had been craving a little bit of interaction,
Yeah, we that's why we do user group stuff, right? Community
exactly.
Stuff. We love the interaction.
But that's what me and Steve.
Thank you. You get me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so there we go. This is what Azure Arc is for, right? It extends Azure services to a SQL Server anywhere. We're not going into Azure infrastructure, so we're not going to talk about other options to have other Azure services running on the data center. This is the one we are looking at as a prerequisite to, again, the goal is to get data from SQL Server 2025 up to Fabric without using CDC, because CDC is super heavy, super taxing on the server, right? So we want to get the data in the cloud using mirroring, right? To the cloud, specifically to Fabric, using mirroring. So the first prerequisite is to get this guy. Once this guy is in place, and this guy is Azure Arc, once Azure Arc is in place, the whole security thing is set, but Fabric needs to talk to your service on premise. How is Fabric going to talk to your SQL Server on premise? Would you have to open a firewall and poke a hole in the firewall there so Fabric can talk to your? If you bring that option, it will turn down right away, right? Because no network engineer would allow you there, especially if you want to still be friends with the security people. So there's no firewall, no nothing to be implemented. You have two options in here to allow Fabric and the mirroring elements inside the Fabric to talk to your SQL Server on-premise. In terms of two elements. One is the network connectivity. In terms of network connectivity, you can use, like I'm going to use here, you can use just the regular public internet and be regulated by the speed that's in there, that's available there, those fluctuations on the public internet. You can have express route. So either way, express route is better. You have more stable connection to Azure and more predictable bandwidth. But the most important is when it comes to the security of that network channel, either one, regardless if you use one or the other. If you are, if the people who are watching this are like us, that we've been working with Fabric since the Power BI ages, when it was just Power BI, right? They have heard about the data gateway, right? The gateway we have in Power BI. So the same thing applies here. It's kind of the same gateway that it's not the same. They have updated the service a lot, but it's the gateway, the standard gateway we use to get data from SQL into Power BI, semantic model in Power BI. So if I go back here to the virtual machine, I'm going to leave that one aside there. It seems now it wants to participate, but now I moved on from that other one. So this is it. You see, on-premise data gateway. And we do have to set up a gateway like we would do for Power BI. And like you can see, the gateway here supports not just Power BI like it used to, right? But now it does Power Automate, Power Apps, Logic Apps, a bunch of them. And Fabric is already in place because, again, I already installed this machine before.
It's
so
funny, just as as anecdote on gateways, like the amount of times over the years that I've had to like fight tooth and nail with IT to get them to install this, because they're like, it's a security issue. Like it is a one directional secure handshake built by Microsoft. Like, we can't install this. Others like, then you're not going to get your data to the cloud. Like, it's, like there's documentation on this, but the amount of people who've been like looking at me as if I'm a thief in the night, but I'm recommending them to install this. It's like, it's been kind of funny. Of all the things to be like cautious of, like, this is such a safe thing to have. And like, oh, it's going to take up resources. Like, if you don't use the gateway, it literally sits idly and maybe takes up like 0.1% of your CPU. It's a very small cost of installation.
Yep. And for those scenarios where you really have a hard time convincing the security people, there is yet an alternative one that I don't have a slide for, but just because you mentioned it, I'm trying to do my trick here. Let's see, put you there. And let's move here. Let's see, you. Come on. Oh, there you are. Oh, there you were. Yes, my iPad here. So if if that becomes an issue, like a stopper, right? Not a showstopper. I'm not gonna do that data gateway there. There is one thing else. There's one more thing you can do. Where's my thing here to write? You see, there is this thing that's very real called the presentation blindness. You're looking for something, it's right in front of you, and you cannot see.
I feel like there's just there's an observational blindness, right? What was that famous study in the 80s where they had a bunch of people like, I think they were instructed, like, pay attention to the basketball, count how many times this basketball is being dribbled, and there was a team dribbling the basketball between each other, and a person in a gorilla suit literally walks by in between everybody, and then they're like, all right, how many people saw the gorilla? Like, what gorilla? And they're like, let's watch the video again. Like, no, that's a different video. There's no way. Like nobody's, I think like 80-90% of the participants did not see the gorilla, a man in a gorilla suit walking through the room.
Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's real. It is real.
Yep.
So let's say I got my SQL here, right? And there are other services.
Oh, you got a drawing pad. Yes.
Yeah. I got my other service in here, got my cloud thing going on, and my, my fabric going on there in the cloud. And again, the gateway is a no, right? My security team, they're like, no gateway here with us. So how are we gonna connect these two? Well, the other way, if that is if that is an option there, if this is in place, usually these companies, they are heavily using Azure. They have some sort of a WAN connecting their on-premise to the cloud, right? If they have a WAN in place, it can be a vWAN from Azure, it can be a gateway service from Azure that's doing this connection in there, which means like if they have here this network 10.0.1, there is a VNet here, let's say 10.0.2, right? You can connect a gateway here, a VNet gateway, not on-premise, right? So this is on-premise, and here's the cloud. Not on-premise, but in a VNet in the cloud where it's already there, right? They already have this VNet because they already have the one. So there are other workloads using this. So you don't have to deploy the gateway to the on-premise side. You can deploy the gateway to the cloud side as long as they have a VNet that they can connect to or it's already connected to the WAN. So that's also an option. I hope.
I need at some point to invest one. And like I've wanted for a while to have like a wireless drop pad, because every once in a while I feel like on a call, like just being able to quickly doodle out something, conceptually seems like or so much faster than trying to draw it in PowerPoint or something.
Oh yeah. I always had an iPad. I love doing my iPad. And when I was using a PC as my personal computer, I had the AirPlay with the iPad. So it was great. But I got so they broke into my car last year. They got my laptop, and the company sent me another one, and they sent me an Apple. So I've been working with an Apple for 9 months, 10 months. So it's kind of an adventure, It's always like, oh, is this gonna work? But with the iPad, it's a breeze. It really works pretty well.
Nice.
All right, moving on. You go down. If I need you again, I call you back. So you will need this guy, right? You're gonna need the on-premise gateway. And this is the last piece there's my mouse here. This is the last piece you have to install. Once this one is there, you have everything in place in terms of infrastructure to get the data flowing from on-premise to Fabric. The next steps from here, they are about giving permission. Because if you can recall from the slide deck here, let's see. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, if you can recall from the slide deck here, this whole thing is about identity, right? To work with identity, and as long as you have an identity, you can assign permissions. So we will need to assign permissions to Fabric to go into SQL, and also to the manage identity in SQL to talk to Fabric. So it's a two ways set up in here. So the first one, back to the virtual machine. Where is it? Here. So the first one here is Management Studio, is to create a, sorry for the small letter there on the Object Explorer. And again, there is a way to do Zoom here, but because I'm still exploring this Apple offering here, I tried doing that Zoom once and mess up the whole thing, so not trying it today. But yeah, you have to create a login in your on-premise. And this login can be either a SQL login, because you're going to get that credential to Fabric later. So it can be a SQL login, or it can be managed, not a managed identity, but a security identity service principal in Azure for this guy. So we can use either one. The security identity is the one that you do have a secret for that, so it's not as secure. But in this case, from cloud to ground, the authentication into the database is going to use one of the two, because for now, managed identities are not allowed into SQL yet for that. So there we go. We got it there. What else? Yeah, so we get this one here, and then you have to give permission to the specific database you want to replicate. So if I go here into security, remember pubs?
Remember which thing?
Pubs, this database from SQL Server 6.5.
Yeah.
I found it today and say, oh, okay, I'm going to bring pubs here today. This has been a while. So, and for those who are not familiar with pubs, pubs is not your bar, not an Irish bar. Pubs here is a publication database. It's a sample database before Northwind, all the way back in SQL Server 6.5. So this is for the old timers. Some nostalgia going on. Anyways, so you get the SQL logins in here, you create them, and in here you have to get the specific permissions. So this is all documented, but just for you to know all the prerequisites. I'm not going to go deep into the elements there because of the time. We are really advanced on time. There is another another thing I want to demo for you there.
Please,
so,
yeah.
So yeah, this is one. This is it. The next thing, and as you can see, there is a lot of infrastructure to be taken care of. Once this infrastructure is on, it's a breeze to do mirroring. You just set it up, connect to the database, and the data starts flowing. You check the tables you want, the data starts flowing. But to me, the most challenging part is the one that when you have to give permission to the managed identity of this virtual machine into Entra, so it can communicate to Fabric in Entra. So you have to run a script. Let me bring the script here. And this is the portion that unfortunately was giving me issues before. Let's see if this flies now. Shell.azure.com. So my demo account. And here's the demo account. Got my shell there. In the documentation, they give you the PowerShell script to do the setup in Entra for the managed account, for the managed identity, to be able to talk to Fabric. Let's see here. SQL 25. There. Code, SQL, there one. So for those who are following along, when you get to I have the link for the documentation. I'm going to put the QR code here for you at the end, so you can capture it. This is usually the place where people get stuck, because you do have to work hand in hand with the Entra ID people. Oh, it doesn't work. Nice. So here we go, right? You see, they offer you the script is already there, and you get to capture the tenant ID, my tenant ID there, and the managed identity name. So is the name, usually is the same name of the virtual machine that got created, that we installed. So we offer this to here, and all the permissions, you see, all the delegations and permissions that will be given to the managed identity that was retrieved over here are going to be applied for you. You can try to do this by hand. I never tried. I usually try to get this script to work. So let's see if it flies now.
Fingers crossed. You gotta praise the rain gods.
Oops. What happened? Okay, let's go for some authentication there. Yeah, my account has all the privileges. So in Entra, there are privileges and there are, roles, management roles, and there are privileged management roles. And this account has the whole thing. So I know I don't have a permission issue, even though when it fails, it says you do have a permission issue. All right, authenticated. Let's see how the script goes. Boom. Read, I got blood in my screen.
No.
Yeah, guys. See, it says the principal was not found in a graph, but the principal is there. We checked it. And sometimes this happens, some context thing that needs to be changed. I'm not going to troubleshoot this. But once this is in place, and like I said, I have this working with my customers. Once this is in place, the next step is going to Fabric, create the connection, and then just choose the database and the tables going in. So we are close, very close to the very end. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to finish it up because there are some naming resolution that's not working there or something like that. All right, so that is mirroring. Let's go to the next one. Any question coming through?
Don't see any.
Okay. Okay, so mirroring is our preferred way. It's kind of a cumbersome to implement, right? But it's our preferred way because it's very integrated with Fabric. You see the whole thing happening there in Fabric, and you select the tables you want, the database and the tables you want to come through, and it's just, we are home, right? It's just everything is in Fabric, including the gateway, right? It's a Fabric gateway. So that's my option number one. If I get to a situation that option number one doesn't work, try troubleshoot and make it work. But there is another option that Microsoft brought in SQL Server 2025 that's not, here's the important thing, it's not specific or specialized to Fabric. This is a more generic one that we can use with Fabric if you want to, but we can use it with other things. And if we talk to the to Microsoft people, the SQL Microsoft people there, they don't mention it, but we work with a lot of other database technologies. And since the beginning, Cosmos DB came with this idea of change feed. Now, conceptually, the idea is like a trigger. If you're a SQL Server person and you create a table and you want something to happen, if something happens to that table in terms of data, like insert, update, delete, you create a trigger, right? You go create a trigger on the table. If there's an update, I want this code to be done, this code to be done. And triggers became like a villain because people got crazy creating triggers and they have the database super heavy, super slow, and sometimes people cannot even predict what's going to happen because they don't know which triggers are there on that table. It can get really crazy. So when you talk about triggers, do this if something happens to the table, people always go like, that's not the best idea, the best idea, the best resource to implement. Well, Cosmos DB from inception, from design, it had the same issue. If you want to, you can have a code. In case of Cosmos DB, it's a JavaScript code uploaded to the server, and if something happens, you can trigger that code. But it's highly not recommended for the same reasons we have in SQL Server. They're even worse because it's Java and JavaScript and a lot of limitations there. But so what they have done over there, they create this thing called change feed. It's like if something changes, if some, got these clients in here, they're talking to SQL Server. If one of them, changes a row or a collection of rows into my database, I want SQL Server to create a payload of that change and send it out to somebody else to deal with that. So that's the idea of the change feed in Cosmos. That's the same implementation here, the same conceptual implementation here. So that trigger that I had in SQL Server doesn't have to be in SQL anymore. I can implement that code someplace else. I could just get the payload, for instance, and deploy to a storage place. So whatever is happening, keep my logging there, so I know everything that happened to my database in the last 30 days, let's say, in a very granular level, right? Row by row, every time something changes. So this conceptually is CDC, right? If you think about CDC, change data capture, it's doing the exactly same thing. The difference in here is the data that was captured, the data that was there, and the new data was captured. It's not stored in SQL anymore. SQL is sending it out to someone.
Okay, interesting.
So it's going out somewhere else. And SQL doesn't keep history of that. It just makes sure that the transport line is up. If this transport line here, where is my mouse? I do have a laser pointer here somewhere. There we go. If this line here goes down, SQL Server will not accumulate changes. It will try for a while. If it goes well, you're going to lose data because it has very little buffer and control on the server side, because the intent is to be light, very light on the server side. So this is not CDC. This is not replication that we used to have in SQL Server, and this is not distributed groups, right? Availability groups. None of this. This is a feature in itself. Just for actually in SQL Server 2025, this thing is incompatible with replication. For instance, if you have replication in place, you cannot do this, right? If you have a DAG in place, this has to be on the main server, right? The read-write server. So there are some specifics you got to take a look in there, but that's the idea. So if this endpoint here, whatever this data is coming, is going to, if it talks a particular protocol that SQL Server wants to talk, SQL Server has two options here. We can use it MQTT or Kafka. You can use one of the two. So if the endpoint here talks one of these two protocols, SQL Server can talk straight there. But the most common approach to this is this one here. You have a message manager, right? Some service in the middle that's doing message manager, and you have message management, and you have SQL Server talking to this guy, and this guy here, because you manage the message, you have the flexibility to come from SQL and go to storage, or come to SQL, go to storage, and trigger some actions. This message management services, they have the ability to do multicasting. So you can get one message in and send that message to multiple places. And in here is, that trigger that was in here. Now I can have that trigger over here in Azure Function up in the cloud if I want to have that, whatever happened there, whatever transactional was captured by the application into SQL, to replicate outside in the cloud, whatever I want. And because Fabric is compatible with these things, I can also get that same payload delivered to Fabric, to a particular thing in Fabric called real-time intelligence. And in the real-time intelligence elements in Fabric, I have the event stream. So I can connect the event stream to a message manager, in this case here, Event Hub. And with the Event Hub, every time with the Event Hub up, I can connect SQL. Where is it? It's here. I can connect SQL to the Event Hub and send the messages over to Fabric. Now, this is very granular. It goes, row by row. Something changes, it sends that payload over there to whoever you want. So you get to choose at the table level what you want to, which tables you want to send. And you select the table and all columns go. Again, we have just a limited amount of time here to talk about these things. So if you consider this one or mirror, there are a lot of limitations when it comes to the payloads, the tables you can select, the data types and the columns that can go through. So read the fine print, right? Always read the fine print. But it works. If you fit in, it works. Let's take a look. Who is this? Nope. Nope. Here. There we go. Let me take this blood away. And let's go to the portal. Right, so we want to have here Event Hub. Let's go ahead and create one. These are simple services. They come up really fast. I was like, should I have it already deployed? So now let's show that to our friends. You know, people like to see these things for the most part. So this is Trash Me Later Event Hub, right? My Event Hub, Trash Me Later. And this is in West, US 3, where my Fabric and my connection here. I'm in California, so that would work better. Let's save money. Let's go to basic. Yeah, and this is the volume of message that could come in. I'm gonna save you to this specific here. Okay. No big in here. Networking public access, we're good, and create. It's a funny thing here, Reed, because we are creating an event hub, but actually, when you ask to create an event hub, it creates a namespace. So after the namespace is created is when you actually have the chance to create the event hub, the message manager.
I understand.
Okay, while this one is going, let me see, who are you? Fabric mirroring. Oh, this is the fabric mirroring. So for the folks following along, I will do this here, create QR code. So you can go ahead and scan this, use your phone to grab the URL for this one here. This is for the mirroring. Yeah, this is for the mirroring.
If you can paste that as well into the chat, if you have a second, what I'll do is I'll put that into the comments as well, just for anybody that doesn't have their phone.
Sounds great. Let me do that. Control V. Uh-oh, the chat doesn't allow for, the URL. Let me get the URL. I was trying to get the QR code.
Yeah, just the URL would be fine.
Okay. Here's the URL for mirroring. Yeah, SQL 2025 mirroring. By the way, it just occurred to me, I forgot to mention that, Reed. SQL Server 2025 supports database mirroring without CDC, right? Doing the infrastructure we covered to Fabric. And if you do that, you cannot, this is kind of confusing, so I'm gonna say really slow. In SQL Server 2025, you can do database mirroring to Fabric natively, the way we discussed. And the database, the source database, cannot have CDC enabled. If CDC is enabled, you cannot do that. That infrastructure and the streaming thing that I'm demoing now, they work for SQL Server 2025. For previous versions, okay, this sounds great, but I'm running SQL Server 2022. Can I do that in SQL Server 2022? For now, you cannot do the streaming one that I'm creating the Event Hub for, but you can do mirroring in SQL Server 2022, 2019. I think they go all the way back to 2016. Okay. You can, but there you must have CDC enabled.
Okay, so back in 2016, you need CDC enabled.
Yes, from 2016 to 2022, you gotta have CDC enabled. In 2025, it cannot show up. If it's there, you cannot do mirroring to Fabric.
Okay, gotcha.
Cool. Some gotchas there. I asked a couple of people there at Microsoft, why that? Why is that? Change the bits, and they're like, not that simple, Armando. Not that simple. Okay. Well, yes. So let me go back here. I do have a tab somewhere with the CES, but I can't find, so I'm going to look for it here again. Site learn.microsoft.com, SQL Server 2025, CES. I think that should do. There we go. Config change event streaming. So CES stands for change event streaming. And here we get the instructions. Let's do the same thing. QR code here for our, we are kind of running out of time. So QR code there for the folks who want to use the cell phone to get to the site. And here, come on. See the Mac thing. Let's try that again. There we go. Oops, back one. Yeah, so here we are, right? So prerequisites, like we're doing there, we need to have an event hub. Got to be an event hub because it needs to talk the Kafka protocol supported by Event Hub, and you got to have SQL Server 2025 for that one. You do have this support on the cloud versions of SQL Server, right? Everything that's in the cloud, they already have the latest bits, so we are good with those. This is a PowerShell script to create an event hub. So I'm gonna pass that by and go back to Azure because it should be there already. There we go. So let's go to the resource and create my event hub. So this one here, trash me later. Trash me later. Hub. Clean policy, okay. Leave it by default there. Yeah. So I'm not going to go into the details of this. This can create a dump of whatever messages coming in. If I have the service running on a particular skill level, which I don't, so not enabled, let's just create the hub. Now that I have my hub on, it's waiting for messages. You see, no message coming through. It's waiting for messages. And if I go here into settings, I think, yep, shared access policies. Let's go ahead and create one to send from SQL 2025. Security, right? So this access policy here, using this authentication, you can only send messages to the hub. You cannot do anything else. So now I have here my primary key, my secondary key, and then I need to go into SQL. So if I go back in here, you see that what they need is to set up, see, event stream to Azure Event Hubs, AMQP. This is AMQP. Where is Kafka? Kafka is better. Let's look at Kafka. So we just have to make two calls, you see? One call, I mean, some setup in here, but we have to make a call to enable it to the endpoint and which table, and if you have more than one, it'll be multiple calls of this, which table or tables we want to send through the pipeline. So let's copy this thing here. Go into Management Studio and fill in the gaps. Come on. All right, so master key. I'm already in the database. Get out. I think this worked, right? This could be my password. Yep. Password is there. Credential name. So this is my Event Hub. Credential. This name goes here. Event Hub, correct. Now my information from the Event Hub. Let's see. You are here. So my primary key here. For the folks who are watching live, we're gonna do this. For the folks who are watching live, you have a very short window of time to try to send messages to my what did I copy? Key. To try to send messages to my Event Hub, because I will put this down after this session is over, so you can consume some of my credits there for a little while. There we go. So that's the secret. Primary key. What is the other thing he's looking for? Yeah, that's the one. Shared access signature, and this is my thing, and this is my credential. Perfect. So now I'm gonna go for the event stream namespace. And this is this guy here. Using Kafka protocol, Apache Kafka protocol, and the destination here goes to my connection string. So let's go here. And I should be able to see it here. Let's see. Ding, ding, ding. No, this is shard key. Event Hub. Here you are. And going once, going twice. It should be here. Configuration. Nope. Ouch. Where is that connection string thing? Type Event Hub, namespace Event Hub. We're there. Oh, I'm lost. I can't find the URL it's looking for. Usually it should show up here. You can start generate test data. Yeah. Oh, Reed, I'm so sorry. It should be showing here, but I don't see it. Let's see if we can create an access policy from here. Add SQL 2025 VM 2. Send. The other one I created is for the entire namespace, so we could send to any Event Hub from there. And this is for this particular manager, but it's not what it's looking for. Okay, let's switch. Let's do this one. For some reason, it doesn't show me that one, but I will switch to this one here. See if this one helps. Copy. And here. Paste here. Up to this point, everything is the same. So I don't need this twice. And here, let's get that thing again. Destination location. They should be it here. Oops. Copy and paste here. So that is that. Moving on. And just make sure that the quote is there. Yeah, quote and comments, they are there. And don't think it needs this portion here. Gradation name is this here. Message size, they usually say that we should not go to over 1 megabyte in size, kind of how the network works. But talking to the engineers, network engineers, see there is any specific on the networking to get up to the clouds, if they have specific things in there. And partition schema name, in this case here, this case here is change partition count, metadata, delete, transfer her name. And done. So once this is implemented, then hopefully the connection will validate. Oops. Change stream is not. Oh, did I forget you? Yeah, and I even deleted it. Let's go back in here. I need this line here. Thing. Yeah, by default, it's not on, so we have to enable it. Oh, buddy. Procedure, line 24, could not find start procedure. This is 2025, right? I installed the right image. I'm sure I did. Yeah, 2025. I don't know what setting I did not set up. So 042, read the demo gods are not happy with me, but this is what it should be happening here. This is start procedure should start the process inside SQL that would be sending the streams out. This would connect it to my event hub that I just connected. And in here, I tried to connect, I'd rather say. And here is where I would choose the tables that would be monitored and the payload be sent to the event stream. And from there to Fabric. For some reason, this guy is not working.
No worries, it happens sometimes.
Dang, sorry about that. This option is on. This thing is working 2025. Yeah, everything should be everything is as they should be. So not sure, but again, not trying to troubleshoot here. No, we are up on time. It works when we rehearse, but then sometimes in life this happens. Anyways, so this is what would be in place, right? Those start procedures were being called in here to connect to Event Hub. The next step actually would be coming here to Fabric. Here, this the VM. Fabric. Yeah, the next step would be coming here in Fabric and connect payload. What is this workspace? No, I already have a workspace there. So I would come in here and create an event stream. from SQL VM. Just for sake of visual completion, right? It would come here to Fabric and tell Fabric through the event stream to go and connect to the Event Hub. Here we go. Go to Event Hub, and I would select here from the Event Hub, the Event Hubs that I have on my subscription. And once this is connected to the Event Hub, the message is coming into the Event Hub from whatever sources, because Fabric doesn't know who we send the message, or we set up it to SQL, but could be anywhere. Like I said, it's not specific for Fabric. Message would come in and it would land in here, and we're finishing up this setup in here to ask the Event Hub to send the payloads into OneLake, and from OneLake we start our medallion approach to the raw data coming from or ingested from SQL Server. All right, sorry that the demos didn't work, and this is what I have for today.
Let me flip back. There we go. All right. No, I think this was a good detailed walkthrough between kind of setting up, also setting the context of some of the really good new features that are in SQL Server 2025, but then getting essentially the mist, the cloud, and the on-prem to play nice together. I do think a good thing usually as we wrap up is, do you have any suggested resources, links, places to go check out for people that want to dig into this a bit more themselves as they go look into some of these new features or products?
Yeah, the two links we shared with them, which are the tutorials, the hands-on, would guide them through the process, right? Well, try, if they have resources and Fabric available to them, we guide them through the process. And here on the left side, we get all the the nuts and bolts of the features themselves. So those two links we shared are the main ones, and then you can navigate in the documentation over here. That's how I got to learn this thing after it came out in public preview.
Excellent. Well, I want to I got the two links in the chat, and it's going to be in the YouTube description as well. But otherwise, I want to thank you for coming on to this, sharing the information. Looking forward to getting you back on again at some point, and also excited to be able to hang out again, of course, in Atlanta here in like a little over a month.
About a month, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that the demo didn't fly, but again, this is very valuable information. I do the event stream that we just went through is still in preview. So all the caution for people out there. Services that are in preview. In this case, they're in the services in preview in SQL Server on-premise. Services that are in preview, they have a different support agreement, right? Microsoft sometimes says they don't support, depending on what you're doing.
Yep.
So we don't have support. Sometimes they want you to use that so much that they offer you some support, but it's not the formal support that you would see from other services that are GA. And I think it's important to mention that too, Reed, that in SQL Server 2025, Microsoft start coming with this idea of features in the SQL Server on-premise that are in preview. Usually you see these preview features only in the cloud, and on-premise until 2022, you wait for CU to come out because the feature is already good to go, supposedly. But now Microsoft has this this approach in SQL Server 2025 to turn features on and off when they are in preview. So that one is in preview. Perhaps that's why my demo didn't work. I think I enabled it, but I'll check later.
No worries. No, but it's nice that they're a bit more agile than on the releases, with allowing for preview stuff to come into there. As long as the DBs are very aware of it's an in development feature if they use the preview feature.
It's in development feature. It may change when it goes GA, right? The store procedure parameters may change. Things can change. So when it comes GA, you may have to do some maintenance on that one. And if it breaks, you may be offline for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for taking time out of your morning, Steve, your evening. But yeah, appreciate both of us for coming on for this, and enjoy the rest of your Friday and weekend.
Yep. See you guys later. See you around.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.